All right, today we are doing my top 5 solo games of 2022. And when I say of 2022, I mean new to me in 2022. Some of these games will not be from this year, they'll be from like a year ago, maybe two. But they were new to me, and this was the first time I got to play them. So, I'm counting it. I'm gonna count it. So anyway, let's dive into the list with number 5, and that is Warp's Edge by Renegade game studio and designed by Scott Alms. Now, Scott Alms is a great solo game designer. I really like his stuff, and he does other things besides solo games, but I really like. But Warp's Edge was a lot of fun. It was a game that on Kickstarter I never really backed because I just wasn't into it at the time, and I kept hearing more and more and more about it until finally earlier this year I got myself a copy. And essentially, you can read the description down here, but you have your own like little ship. You can buy upgrades. You can do different things to get stronger. And then there's a mothership at top, right, that you're trying to take down. And then there's a line of different ships that could possibly come out and attack you, and different things that can happen. And I think it's a really cool system in the way that it works. And it's not too complicated. It doesn't take too long or anything like that. But to me, it's just a solid, it's not really a small box. It's like a medium-sized box game, but it's a very solid well-rounded game. I really enjoy it, especially if you get it for a good price. I think it's a lot of fun, and it really the mechanics are really good. I think the whole way the upgrade system works and how the cards play, I really enjoy it. But yeah, for me, for 2022 is my number 5 solo game. So that is the oldest game on this list, just FYI. It doesn't get older than that. So let's jump into my number 4 game, and that is Set a Watch Swords of the Coin. It's a Todd Walsh game. Rock Manor Games published it. This was another one where I really liked the original. I think it was really fantastic. I think it technically got to me at the very end of 2021, but I didn't get to open and play until 2022. If you played Set a Watch, it's roughly the same, right? There's some slight differences, and obviously like the heroes and the enemies are different. But generally speaking, you'll be able to jump into this, right? And I think it's a pretty well designed game. I really like what they're doing here, where you have a bunch of enemies that line up, and you have to go through several different rounds. I think it's 8, if I remember correctly. You go through 8 different rounds, and you have to fight these enemies and be as efficient as possible with your 4 heroes. Now, one of those heroes is resting at the campsite, and it's important to rest there to recuperate them, but it gives you one less hero that you have to kind of worry about, which is always nice. But it's a fun game, and I generally don't like games where I have to control 4 characters at once. Darkest Night Second Edition is an example of this. It's a pretty popular solo game, but you have to control 4 heroes at one time, and I always felt like it was a bit too much. Set a Watch, because it's a much more compact version, and there's less going on. I think it's pretty good. I think it's pretty good. It's enjoyable. It's fun. It's good replayability. And it kind of that gets to the point, right? Where Darkest Night always felt like a little too long. This is a standalone expansion that can be combined with the original, right? So you could do it either way. You don't need the original, but you can use it. But I definitely, for me personally, I would say start with the original and then get this one later on, if you want to continue down that path. So number 4 is Set a Watch, Swords of a Coin. Now, my number 3 game is not a small box game. It's a very large box, and I love this game solo, and I love this company, and that is Burn Cycle by Chip Theory Games, designed by Josh Carlson and Shannon Wedge. Also, congrats to Shannon for getting her name on the designership. She did a great job with this. So, Burn Cycle was one of those really weird games where I feel like people had like this love-hate thing associated with it, right? When it first was announced, there seemed to be a lot of mixed reviews, which I thought was kind of interesting. And a lot of people didn't like, I think a lot of people didn't like it at 3 or 4 players. And I don't think it's as good at 3 or 4 players. I love Too Many Bones. I love that game. If I'm trying to be as objective as possible, I think Burn Cycle is a better solo game than Too Many Bones is. I just do. I think it's balanced better. I think the mechanics work better. I think all of it's just generally better. Now, the 1-2 things that Burn Cycle feels weird about is, again, it doesn't work on higher player counts. It's not like this straight up action game where like you're going around like, Metal Gear Solid silently murdering all like the humans out there. Like, I mean, you can do that if you really want to, but it's not always the most advantageous thing to do, right? It's not the best thing. So I think a lot of people didn't expect the slower gameplay nature. You really are trying to sneak around and take your time. And there are turns where I have to wait for someone to complete their movement. So not that I have a dead turn, but I'm just doing other things instead of like moving around the board. So I think that threw a lot of people off, and a lot of people didn't like that aspect of it. And also the whole network board. There's this whole network board on the side where you basically can upgrade different things. You can hack into different systems. You could do different things, right? But it feels like this small mini game on the side, and I feel like a lot of people didn't really get it or like it at first because all the actions happening on this main board, and then every single round I have to focus on the small board as well. And I remember early on this was a lot of the, I don't know if it's complaints or they're just like it felt like it was pulling you out of the action. It's important that it's there mechanically. I get it. But it is one of those things where I think people, that's why it wasn't like super well received in the beginning. And not that it was received poorly. I think it was received pretty well. I just think in the very beginning, this was like people's concerns, and that might have turned some people off or whatever. But I love Burn Cycle. I think it's absolutely fantastic. And I think until Hoplomachus comes out, I think as of right now, it's their best solo game. And again, I love Too Many Bones. I love it. I love it. I love it. But I think it's their best solo game, just trying to be as objective as possible. And I know the weight says it's a 3.96. I never thought it was that hard. Like, I thought it was a pretty straightforward game. Now, there's definitely little tricks and hints and whatever you have to worry about, like little weird rules, but it's not as bad as their other stuff. If you play their other stuff, I think this is an easier game to pick up overall. So anyway, that's number 3 is Burn Cycle by Chip Theory Games. Number 2, and this was number 1 for so long. But I love this game. I love this game so incredibly much. And that is Spire's End Hildegard, designed by Greg Favreau and published by Favreau Ventures. Now, this is like the unofficial sequel, I guess, of Spire's End, like the original Spire's End. It's a standalone card game adventure, right? And there was a lot of like, is it going to be related to Spire's End? There's some, not that there's issues with Spire's End, but there are some things that people didn't like, right? A lot of dice chucking in Spire's End. Was this going to be different? Was it going to be the same? How's it going to be? And for me personally, it's different enough from the original Spire's End that to me, it scratches 2 different itches. The art style is way different, which is what's kind of cool about it. But Spire's End Hildegard, I think it's just fun. It's like a choose your own adventure game. They call it a choose your own path adventure, right? But you get to kind of go down these different routes. And I've played through a full campaign about 6 or 7 times now. And, you end up down different paths. Now, I could kind of force myself down roughly the same path sometimes, but you really don't want to, right? You want to experience different parts of the game. And it's really cool as the story unfolds different ways. It's just fun, right? And I get that a lot of people are concerned with how's the replayability of it. Like, is it kind of samey overall? And it can be a little bit, especially if you force yourself to go down the same paths. And the reason I'm putting it that way, of not forcing yourself to go down different paths, is because there is, in the beginning, some of the cards are shuffled up. So you're not 100% sure what path you're going to go down, right? So right out of the gate, there can be different options. Now, again, you can kind of force yourself back one way, but not completely. So there are different paths. Now, hypothetically, if you play this game dozens and dozens and dozens of times, yeah, you could probably see everything. Will it work out exactly the same? No, because dice rolls are going to change things and how you encounter enemies and all that fun stuff. So I get some people's concerns that it'd be kind of samey and, eventually you're going to see everything. That's true. You would. But to be honest, like I said, I played this a fair amount of times and I really enjoy it. I just really enjoy it. I think it's a fun experience. I think it's a more relaxing game. I think it's a straight to the point game, which I always enjoy. And it's just good quality components, good quality cards. And I'm excited for whatever's next in the Spire's End universe. I really like this game. And it's just one I enjoy playing. I guess what I should say. Just really enjoy playing that. So that was my number 2 game. So now finally my number 1. Because Spire's End Hildegard was number 1 for the longest time. Now, this game came out in 2021, right? And it was impossible to find copies of it, right? Because there was so much hype when it was finally delivered. They couldn't find it. So I wasn't able to get my copy until 2022, much later on in 2022. And I got it, and I started playing, and I fell in love with this game. And I think it's absolutely phenomenal of a game. and that is Final Girl, published by Van Ryder Games, designed by Evan, Derek, and AJ Porfirio. So sorry, I'm sure I'm pronouncing a bunch of these names wrong. I really apologize. Final Girl is a true solo game, right? One player only game, and it is so good. It is so good, and I kind of didn't really believe in the hype in the beginning, partially because I didn't think it could be that good. Just be honest. I just did not think it could be that good. When I first researched this game when it was on Kickstarter, there was a lot of hype around backing it. I didn't back it then because I didn't like the theme. Like, I'm not a big horror theme person, so I thought this game wouldn't be for me. And somebody got an early copy of it that I know, and they played it, and they said, even if you don't like horror, it's still good. They're like, it's better if you do, and you better if you get all the tropes and stuff and all the inside jokes and whatever, all that, yeah. But it's still just such an overall great game. And after playing a lot of Final Girl recently, I can tell you that this is a phenomenal game, right? It's so good in so many different ways where, yes, there are dice where you have to roll to basically do action through dices, right? And decide how what the results are going to be, right? So you play a certain card, you roll some dice, and that tells you if it's going to succeed. But you can mitigate a lot of that by using cards in your hand. But cards in your hand is how you do action. So you don't want to get rid of all the cards in your hand. Even if you do have a ton of cards in your hand, you don't want to get rid of all of them because you need to save up time. What's time? Time is a way that you buy more future actions, right? And you get to plan out, okay, if I use an action now, I can not get it for next turn, but I can get it for the following turn. Is that going to be good? Right? There's so many levels of decision making in this game, like a surprising amount. And it's not an overly complicated game. It's just one you have to think through quite a bit. Then all these Final Girl boxes come with new Final Girls that have their own special like little thing that they do. But more importantly is the villain and the killer that makes things interesting, right? And it's at a different location each time. And this combination of how the killer mechanics work and the location makes it really interesting. And then you can mix and match them, right? You can make really interesting different things going on here. The core game itself, if you buy it, on retail, is like 20 some bucks. Each of the Final Girl /villain /location boxes are like 15, 20 bucks. Like, it's not that expensive to get into either, which is what's also really cool about it, right? It's good to see like well-priced games, right? Like it's really fun. So Final Girl is amazing in the way that it works. It's absolutely amazing. I really, really, really love it. I highly recommend it to everyone. And I personally am really excited for season 2, right? That should be coming out in the next month or two, I guess, from this video. But yeah, I really love Final Girl. It has been my favorite solo game. And honestly, it's one of my top solo games of all time at this point. It's so good. I played so much of it. Yeah. Anyway, that is my top 5 solo games of 2022. But before we finish, do me a huge favor. Scroll down, obviously like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. It really helps me out. But let me know what your top solo games are from this year, right? And if you're not a solo gamer and you enjoy this channel and you want to write just generally what games you've really enjoyed from this year that's new to you for this year, put it down in the comments. I love to read that stuff. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this list. This was a lot of fun. And yeah, I'm excited for next year. And I'm excited to play more of these games. I need to play some more. So I will see you all next time. Take care.